Hey YouTubes, this is Sabrock. I thought I'd make a video documenting a few of my ideas that I think would be good for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. These are ideas that I don't necessarily think they're going to make, but I think they should make nevertheless. Some of them they might make. We'll start off with my biggest issue that has been present in every edition of D&D, and that is Vancian spellcasting. Vancian spellcasting needs to die. And it's something that a lot of people that I talk to agree with or are neutral towards. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who really likes Vancian spellcasting as a principle. But there's a lot of people who are opposed to it. Dungeons & Dragons is the only RPG that I know of that uses it, and it just needs to die for 5th edition. This is one that I really don't think that they'll make that particular kind of change because it's kind of become iconic to D&D, and the developers are usually pretty hesitant to remove anything that seems iconic D&D, even if it's a really bad idea. Just to give an example, my campaign world, which I've had since before I even started playing D&D, I've been developing this fantasy setting. There's a certain special relationship between life and mana and magic, and using magic in a nutshell is a mage using up his own spiritual energy, which is mana, and it's like the spiritual version of physical strength. He uses up his own mana to shape magic, which is a free-floating energy throughout the world, and to shape it into a particular form, and then it's a spell. And then they can maintain spells by slowly allotting a stream of mana to the spell, and that's basically how magic works in my setting, in canon. So like when I write stories in my setting, that's how magic works, and it's very difficult to reconcile that with Vancian spellcasting. The fire and forget. I cast a spell, now I don't know the spell anymore. I can't cast it again, no matter how much energy I have left. I hesitate to use the word realistic because it's magic, and yeah, it's not realistic at all anyways, but it's not as believable for, at least to the modern fantasy genre. And what's more, it just limits options. You could easily go to a spell point system as the main system and tack on Fire and Forget on top of that, so that every time you cast these particular spells, you forget them until X happens where they recharge. Which, by the way, is a lot more video gamey than pretty much anything that was invented for 4th edition. So, just had to put that out. I'm sure I'll get a bunch of, 4th edition is a video game. It's WoW on paper. No. Anyways, so I think Vancian spellcasting needs to die. That's my opinion, and I'll go head to head with any D&D developer about the merits and the drawbacks of Vancian spellcasting, because that is a very one-sided argument, in my opinion. Number 2 is in the announcement of 5th edition, which I'm noticing that they're not calling 5th edition officially. It's the next incarnation of Dungeons & Dragons, or whatever it is. They intend to make like a core system that is modular. So whatever sort of rule sets you want to use, you just sort of get that book and tack it on, so that 5th edition can become basically whatever it is you want it to be. And they've expressly said that they're trying to draw on the appeal of every past edition of Dungeons & Dragons, so that everyone who's ever enjoyed any edition of Dungeons & Dragons can enjoy this version. They're trying to please everyone, and Wizards has always tried to do this. They repeatedly, with Dungeons & Dragons, not with their other products, as far as I'm aware, but with Dungeons & Dragons, there seems to be this attempt to please everyone, and it always fails. They always try it, and they're never good at it. Dungeons & Dragons, each edition, compared to each other, is such a polarizing thing. The fan base has this natural tendency to tear itself apart and divide itself, because we're very opinionated people, and we really like certain aspects of this game, or like the point is, you can't please everyone all the time. There's a reason that's a saying, and if you try to do so, you will please nobody. Although I'm sure some people might like it. Some people like Fatal. You can't. You will always please somebody, unless you're trying not to. And I'm just really concerned that that Dungeons and Dragons will not have a focus. And in order for an RPG to be good, it has to have a focus, something that it can do really well, and other things that it might be able to do all right. But if it doesn't have something it can do really well, it's going to fail because it will do nothing well, and there will always be systems for whatever style of game that you're trying to run. There will always be better systems if this system can't do whatever it is you're trying to do really, really well. And so that's a concern of mine. It's not necessarily an idea, but it's something that I think they probably shouldn't do, is to try to please everyone. That besides the fact that, by all accounts, 1st edition and 2nd edition are horrible systems by comparison to 3rd and 4th. I can just think of nothing from those systems that is worth bringing back that isn't also in 3rd and 4th. I think we need to innovate, and don't look in the past, look in the future. You learn from the past, but you move ahead. There's no reason to try to make a system that is this reincarnation, amalgamation of 1st edition, AD&D, 2nd edition, 3rd and 4th. You don't need to do that to draw in everyone. Or you can't draw in everyone, but to draw in your crowd, your D&D fan base. You don't need to do that, because you will alienate people like me who want this fresh look from a new edition. I don't want to see things that are in other systems already. I want to see something new, something exciting, something fresh. And I'm concerned that the Wizards people aren't doing that. Obviously, I can't say for certain that they're not doing that. I can't level any solid opinions on what they're doing until I see what they're doing, and I have not seen what they're doing. I don't have any inside sources at Wizards. My next point, and this is something that I think, of all of my points that I'm going to make here, I think is the most likely for Wizards to do, because of their experiences in 4th edition, is to rethink the parts of making a character. So far, in 3rd edition and 4th edition, I have very little experience previous to that. You have 2 basic major parts of character customization. You have the race, you have the class. And within the class, you have various options, features or spells or what have you. And then you have feats, which is available to everyone. So I guess that's 3 major parts: race, class, feats. That's your customization right there. In 4th edition, introduced the idea of backgrounds as a very minor part of character customization, and themes. Themes, I think, are brilliant. And if they had been in 4th edition from the very beginning, I think they would have been a lot more popular. As it is, they're kind of tacked on to a system that wasn't ever intended to have them. So that's why I think themes failed. Why I actually don't use them in my campaign, because my campaign started before themes were invented. But I love themes. I love the idea of themes. I love reading them. I love the idea of what they present as character customization options. And I think that 5th edition would do well to have them as part of your character customization, and one of the major parts. So when you're making a character, you think race, class, and theme, or it would probably be called backgrounds. I think would be a good name for them, backgrounds. But they do sort of the same thing as themes, or even a little bit more. So that class and themes are the main things that influence what your character does and who he is. Whereas race would be would modify how you do those things in much the same way that it does now. I think 4th edition did races really, really well. Although perhaps a little bit more race-specific support would be in order. And then I think feats are just fine the way they are, in my opinion. I mean, they could stand some change, but nothing specific comes to mind. I like feats the way they are. Lots of feats that do a little bit. Obviously, you want to avoid the headache of having feats that are required for every character, so they're considered a feat tax. That's not good game design, and that was just a mistake on the part of the math people in 4th edition. My last point for this video is make magic items rare, and I don't think Wizards will do this, mostly from a sales perspective. It's more profitable to have everyone use magic items so that you can print more magic items. But from a storytelling perspective, having rare magic items, and I mean all magic items being rare, is more thematic of what a lot of people want in their D&D games. Or at least, not necessarily by default being rare, but having the option at release, having the option to have, so that the system math assumes no magic items. That was in 4th edition. It was kind of an easy house rule fix if you didn't want magic items. I noticed that right away. It was one of the very first things that I noticed about magic items when I first started reading through the 4th edition books. But it would be a house rule, and you aren't quite certain exactly how to implement it. But the point is that having it at release, the ability to not use magic items at all, or at least make them very rare, so that over the course of the entire campaign, you might come across one magic item per party member, so that they are not mathematically required, but just nice little benefits. That, I think, would make magic items much more special and allow them to have an entirely different, more meaningful place in a campaign storyline. So those are my ideas. Let me know what you think in the comments. I try to reply to any comments that pique my interest. So yeah, see y'all later.